Scorpio, what if your big money isn't missing, it's just been quietly waiting in 9 sacred places you've been overlooking? Places so familiar, so ordinary, that you've forgotten how divine they actually are. Today's message is not just a revelation. It's a recovery. A spiritual remembrance. A divine audit of the areas in your life where abundance has been whispering your name while you were busy searching elsewhere. If you're here, it's not by mistake. Something far greater than coincidence is happening right now. You were led to this moment, to this message, to this stillness because your soul has been asking for clarity. For confirmation. For the kind of divine alignment that cannot be found in noise or distraction. And if you feel that even a small part of this introduction is speaking directly to your spirit, I want you to comment below and type the number 111. Not for me, but as a covenant with yourself. A commitment to awaken. Because by doing so, you're not just engaging with a video, you're re-anchoring your energy into something sacred and irreversible. Welcome to Miracle of the Sign. Here, we don't just read horoscopes. We decode divine blueprints. We don't just talk about astrology, we use it as a compass to navigate what your higher self has already been trying to show you. This message is for the Scorpio who is finally ready to remember. You are not unlucky, you are not late, and you have not been overlooked. You are being prepared. And the wealth you've been waiting for is already present, hidden in plain sight. So many Scorpios have spent years believing that prosperity would arrive from the outside, from a raise, a loan, a relationship, or some grand external breakthrough. But the truth is this. Your spiritual and financial abundance has always been encoded within you. In your scars. In your instincts. In your solitude. In your divine timing. And today, we're going to walk together through 9 deeply personal places where your big money is not only hiding but waiting. Waiting for your awareness. Waiting for your action. Waiting for your faith. Scorpio, this is a moment of reconnection. And I want to thank you truly for being here. Every comment you share, every like you tap, every time you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're nourishing a spiritual movement that is rooted in healing, remembrance, and purpose. You're helping this message reach the ones who feel forgotten. The ones who are praying in silence for something to shift. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. Take a breath with me. Inhale. And listen, not with your ears, but with your soul. There is no need to rush. No need to force. The wisdom of God, the alignment of the stars, and the instructions of your inner compass are already finding their way to you. You just have to stay long enough to hear them. So please, stay with me. Because the revelation waiting in part 1 might be the answer to a prayer you forgot you whispered. Let's begin. As we move from the revelations of your painful past into the quieter seasons of isolation, something profound begins to unfold, not just in your external world, but deep within your energetic body and emotional landscape. Scorpio, you are no stranger to emotional depth. You were born under a sign that does not fear the shadows. You were designed to walk through the valleys of life, not to remain broken, but to become the one who understands the value of silence, the richness of solitude, and the transformative power of surrender. And now, in this next part of your journey, we begin to understand that isolation was never punishment, it was preparation. In astrology, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, of what must be stripped away so that truth can remain. But it is also connected to Mars, the planet of raw will, internal drive, and resilience under pressure. This duality creates a sacred container within you, one where your seasons of being alone are not empty but are portals for clarity, inner alignment, and spiritual discernment. These are not the moments you were forgotten. They were the moments you were being set apart. You were being pulled away from the noise, not to diminish your light but to refine your ability to see it. So many people fear loneliness because they associate it with loss. But in truth, what you lost during that time were only the distractions, the draining connections, the habits that were no longer meant to travel with you into your next chapter. This was your desert season, your wilderness. And if you know the stories of sacred texts, you know that the wilderness is never a void. It is where the clearest instructions are given. It is where prophets are formed. It is where purpose is forged through silence, not shattered by it. In these moments, the divine is not absent. Quite the opposite. In the stillness, in the quiet spaces where your phone didn't ring and nobody came looking for you, you were being reintroduced to your own voice. You were learning to trust your own guidance again. And when you closed your eyes in solitude, you began to hear a whisper that didn't belong to the world but to your soul. From a self-healing perspective, isolation activates deep rest. It recalibrates the nervous system. It removes overstimulation and allows clarity to rise like mist after a long rain. Emotional healing often begins in silence because the body can finally hear what the heart has been trying to say. It's in this space that many Scorpios have their most transformative spiritual awakenings, not because of what's happening outside, but because of what's being revealed inside. If you ever found yourself questioning why certain people disappeared from your life, why certain doors closed just as you felt ready to expand, remember this. Not all disconnections are rejections. Many are redirections. Some are divine reroutes that kept you from walking into environments that would have muted your growth. In the stillness, in the pause, in the unanswered prayers, the space was being made for something sacred to be planted, something that needs your full presence to grow. So I invite you to think back to those moments you called lonely. Can you now see the gold buried within them? The insights you gathered. The strength you didn't know you had. The quiet forgiveness. The gentle letting go. That wasn't the end of anything. That was the becoming of someone. You. If this resonates with you, I encourage you to take a moment and share in the comments. What did you learn in your season of isolation? What did solitude teach you that you couldn't learn in the noise? Someone out there may be walking through their own silent storm, and your voice may be the light they need to find the way. When we speak of miracles, most imagine something grand, a blinding light, an unmistakable sign, or someone charismatic and polished walking into their lives with a perfect solution. But Scorpio, your journey isn't about the obvious. It's about the hidden, the symbolic, the quietly powerful. And that is exactly where your next breakthrough may be hiding, not in a spotlight, but in a whisper. Not in someone impressive, but in someone humble. In this next chapter of your unfolding, we're not looking for hero-soiree, recognizing helpers in unexpected forms. As a Scorpio, your astrological blueprint is ruled by Pluto, the master of the unseen, and Mars, the planet of active drive. This gives you a heightened ability to feel what others miss. But sometimes, even that sacred sensitivity can become clouded when we're conditioned to believe that success must look a certain way, or that divine opportunity must come packaged in prestige. Yet the truth is, your next financial, emotional, or spiritual elevation may already be standing next to you, disguised as the coworker you barely acknowledge, the relative whose ideas you brushed off, or the neighbor who waves at you every day with something deeper behind their eyes. It's not always the CEO or the influencer who holds your missing piece. Sometimes, it's the friend who's been quietly cheering you on. Sometimes, it's the stranger who says one sentence that changes how you see yourself. This is the part of your journey where discernment becomes your greatest wealth. Because the law of attraction doesn't just respond to desire, it responds to awareness. And awareness is what turns ordinary moments into sacred exchanges. It's what transforms overlooked people into portals of possibility. In the language of energy, everything emits a frequency. The people in your life, no matter how unassuming, are vibrating with potential codes. When you tune in through intuition instead of assumption, you begin to hear what's unspoken. You start to notice the divine choreography that places certain people along your path, not to impress you, but to open doors you didn't know existed. This is why Scorpio's gift of spiritual perception is so important right now. You must begin to listen with more than your ears, see with more than your eyes, and connect with more than your social conditioning allows. From the perspective of emotional healing, we often overlook people because they trigger parts of us we haven't yet healed. Maybe someone reminds you of a time you felt invisible, unimportant, or dismissed. But healing also happens when we pause and ask, what if this person isn't here to remind me of pain but to help me move through it into purpose? What if they're here to reflect back a version of me that's finally ready to be seen? This is your opportunity to rewrite the story that says wealth only comes through hustle or hierarchy. Sometimes, wealth arrives as a simple conversation, a fresh idea, or a surprising connection that only reveals its value when you stop looking for what glitters and start listening for what resonates. So Scorpio, I invite you to reflect. Who in your life have you dismissed too quickly? Who keeps showing up without explanation? Who carries a calm presence, a thoughtful word, or a persistent nudge that keeps circling back to you? There is something sacred there. Something you're meant to receive not through effort, but through recognition. And perhaps that person doesn't even know they're the key. But once you do, everything shifts. The miracle isn't always grand. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it wears a worn-out shirt. Sometimes, it smiles at you every day without knowing the door they're about to open. Are you willing to see them now? There's a quiet truth that lives beneath the surface of every Scorpio's journey. You already know what to do. It isn't confusion that holds you back, it's the voice inside you that whispers, not yet. Not now. Not ready. And yet, even as you push that calling aside, it doesn't disappear. It returns in dreams, in repeated ideas, in that lingering thought that refuses to leave you alone. This is not coincidence. This is a soul-level invitation. Scorpio, in your chart lives the signature of transformation. You are here not to remain safe, but to rise again and again through cycles of fear, release, and rebirth. When you avoid what you know in your bones is meant for you, you are not escaping failure, you are delaying freedom. And freedom, in its truest form, often lives on the other side of discomfort. That thing you've been avoiding, the project, the message, the move, the shift you keep planning but not executing, that is the doorway to your next financial expansion. Astrologically speaking, Pluto does not deal in superficial change. It strips away illusion to reveal raw truth. And in your case, the truth is this: the fear you feel is not a warning, it's a spotlight. It's shining directly on the threshold of your breakthrough. That's why the resistance feels so loud. That's why you find 100 reasons to wait. Because somewhere within, you know what's waiting on the other side is real, and powerful, and possibly life-altering. But here's the thing: clarity doesn't always come before the first step. Sometimes, clarity comes as you walk. From the lens of energy healing, avoidance is often rooted in past emotional imprints, times when we tried and failed, when we exposed ourselves and were judged, when we hoped and were disappointed. The body remembers. The nervous system remembers. And so you hesitate, not because the current path is wrong, but because an old version of you still fears being unworthy of what you desire. But you're not that version anymore. You've done the inner work. You've sat with your shadows. You've rebuilt your identity in silence. Now, it's time to take action from that healed place. Many people believe the law of attraction is only about visualization and belief, but they forget that aligned action is the magnet. The universe responds not just to your longing, but to your movement. When you take one small step toward your calling, when you speak it out loud, schedule the meeting, launch the post, send the application, you activate a current. You shift out of stagnation and into synchronicity. And that's where the momentum builds. There's also neuroscience behind this. The brain thrives on completion. When you take a micro-action, you signal safety to the mind. You replace imagined fear with evidence of capability. And slowly, the idea that once paralyzed you begins to feel possible. But none of that can happen if you stay waiting for permission or perfection. They don't exist. Only readiness exists. And readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. So let this be the moment you choose. Let this be the confirmation you've been asking for. Not everything has to be figured out before you begin. You are allowed to take messy, brave, uncertain steps in the direction of your dream. You are allowed to outgrow the life you've settled into. You are allowed to want more and reach for it without apology. That thing you keep avoiding? It's not just an idea. It's an answered prayer trying to arrive. And all it needs is for you to finally say yes. Change is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly through the subtle ways your body no longer feels comfortable in certain rooms, through the inner sigh you let out when pretending to be a version of yourself that no longer fits. Scorpio, you are the zodiac's sacred shapeshifter, but the time has come to stop shifting to please what no longer aligns. This part of your journey is not about adapting to survive. It's about expanding to thrive. You've already done the deep work. You've excavated your shadows, sat with your solitude, reclaimed the pieces of yourself scattered through past pain. Now, you're stepping into the becoming. Not a reinvention, but a remembering of who you've always been underneath the masks you wore to stay small or make others feel safe. And yet, that remembering comes with a holy discomfort. The world around you may not be ready for who you are now. But that's not your burden to carry. Astrologically, as Pluto shifts its placement in the sky, it mirrors a truth already stirring inside of you. Transformation is not optional, it's inevitable. And when your inner vibration changes, the outer world must recalibrate to match. That's why certain friendships feel strained. That's why your job feels dull. That's why your own voice sounds different when you speak. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. Your energetic blueprint is upgrading, and with that upgrade comes a call. Are you willing to show up fully as who you are now, even if others still expect the old version? In energy medicine, there's a principle that says, form follows frequency. What this means is that once you shift your internal resonance, the way you look, speak, move, and attract also shifts. If you try to stay small while your soul is stretching, the dissonance shows up as fatigue, restlessness, anxiety, or even physical symptoms. Not because something's wrong with you, but because your new self is begging to be embodied. From a self-help lens, this is where many people stall. They've done the healing, but they hesitate to express the healed version. They fear being too much or too different from the person others once knew. But here's the truth: the world doesn't need the diluted version of you. It needs the depth, the richness, the radiant complexity of your truth. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that shrinks to make them more comfortable. Your expansion is not a threat, it's an invitation. The ones meant for you will rise to meet it. And in practical terms, this is not just about inner evolution, it's about outer alignment. How are you showing up in your daily life? Do your clothes reflect how you feel now? Does your online presence speak to your current frequency? Are you still writing emails like the old you, speaking with hesitation, second-guessing every move? This is your moment to match your external world to your internal reality. When you walk into a space as the version of you who knows their worth, opportunities rearrange themselves. Rooms open. Conversations shift. Finances follow. So Scorpio, take a moment now to pause and feel into the difference between who you were and who you are now. Let that awareness guide your next move. Speak as her. Move as him. Create from the place your spirit is already dwelling. Because abundance doesn't follow force, it follows authenticity. And the more you embody your true vibration, the faster your reality catches up. When everything around you feels too loud, it's often because your soul is asking for something softer, something still. After so much transformation, after facing your wounds, honoring your solitude, embracing your calling, and shedding the versions of yourself that no longer serve you, arrive at this quiet edge. And Scorpio, this moment of stillness isn't empty. It's sacred. It is, in fact, the very space where all of your previous inner work begins to crystallize into clarity. You've spent seasons chasing alignment, trying to hear divine guidance, waiting for signs, feeling pulled between what the world demands and what your heart knows. But here's what often gets missed: it's not that the answers haven't arrived. It's that you've been too surrounded by noise to truly receive them. The podcasts, the scrolling, the planning, the comparing, even the healing work itself, these are good, useful tools. But tools don't speak. Stillness does. Astrologically, Scorpio is the sign of depth and inner knowing. It is ruled by Pluto, the planet that demands truth through silence and transformation through surrender. When a Scorpio resists stillness, it's often because the stillness holds too much truth we fear will disrupt the image we've worked so hard to hold together. But in reality, that silence isn't asking you to fall apart. It's asking you to come home. From an energetic perspective, stillness is not a lack of motion, it's a frequency recalibration. It is a returning to resonance. The electromagnetic field of the heart becomes coherent in quiet. The nervous system softens. The intuitive mind opens. And in that space, something miraculous begins to happen. You stop trying to hear what's next, and you start allowing what's already inside of you to rise. There's also something deeply empowering about recognizing that your next $1 million idea, your next soulmate collaboration, or your breakthrough path isn't necessarily going to come from more research or more movement. It may come from 5 minutes of stillness before the rest of the world wakes up. Those early moments, when the veil between thought and truth is thinnest, hold a kind of magic that can't be found in busyness. If you've ever had a gut feeling come out of nowhere, or a brilliant idea drop into your mind while doing nothing in particular, you've already tasted what this portal offers. In practical self-help, journaling has long been used as a tool for cognitive clarity. But when approached not as a mental task, but as a soulful surrender, it becomes something more, a daily conversation between your higher self and your present self. When you write from that place, not to fix something but to listen, the words that emerge often surprise you. They come from a deeper place than intellect. They come from wisdom. From wholeness. This is your invitation to slow down, not forever, not to escape, but to recalibrate. Create a 5-minute sanctuary each morning before the demands of the world pull at you. Sit in silence. Let the thoughts come and go like clouds. If it helps, place your hand on your heart to remind yourself, you are here, you are safe, and there is nowhere else more important to be. Let that silence speak. Let that quiet rearrange you. Because while others are searching the world for answers, yours have already arrived. They're just waiting for you in the one place we're rarely taught to look, within. And Scorpio, if you make stillness your practice not as escape, but as connection, you won't need to chase revelation. You'll become it. Scorpio, your wealth isn't ahead of you, it's within you. And it's been there all along, quietly waiting in the places you once dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. Each of the 9 places we've explored today wasn't just a concept, they were invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to feel more honestly, to reclaim what life may have caused you to forget, that you were never behind, never forgotten, and never lacking. You were just being prepared to carry something greater. Abundance does not arrive by accident. It flows to the one who is ready to receive it, not with force, but with awareness. And now that your eyes are open, now that your spirit remembers, what will you do with this knowing? Will you step into the version of yourself who no longer waits for permission? Will you dare to believe that you are already the doorway, that the alignment you seek outside of you is actually seeking you from within? What's one step you can take today to move closer to what's already waiting for you? Which of the 9 places whispered to you the loudest? Was it your hidden talents? A relationship you've been underestimating? A creative idea you've kept tucked away because fear said, not yet? I encourage you to take a moment and comment below. Share the 3 areas that stirred something in your soul. Because by writing it down, you do more than participate. You anchor it. You activate it. And if your heart is saying yes, if something in your body softened or sparked during this message, then let this be your confirmation. You're not crazy, you're not too late, and you're absolutely not alone. You are being guided. You are being equipped. And you are ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. One brave yes at a time. Thank you for being here, truly. Every like, every comment, every moment you spend connecting with this message, each one creates ripple effects you may not see, but they are real. Your energy helps keep this community alive. It helps bring these sacred teachings to others who need them. And for that, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Your presence is a blessing, and your support helps Miracle of the Sign continue to offer these soul-aligned reminders at just the right time. So I invite you now, before the day carries you away again, to pause. To acknowledge how far you've come. To choose not to scroll past your breakthrough, but to claim it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the guidance waiting in the next cycle. And above all, keep listening. Keep trusting. Keep becoming. You don't need the world's approval to be prosperous. You don't need perfect timing. You are the timing. You are the vessel. You are the sign. And trust me, Scorpio, your big money, your divine abundance, is closer than you think. Let's walk this path together.